Hello there, I am Dr. K. Paul Stoller, and this short video is about what I discovered about autism. The year was 1979 when a seasoned obstetrician invited me to assist in a rare and challenging delivery, a double footling breech. In such cases, the baby presents feet first and upside down, complicating the delivery significantly. With a tone of reverence, the OB said, "You'll never see this again. The vaginal delivery of a double footling breech infant. No one will attempt this in the future. They'll go straight to C-section." He guided me gently, placing his hands over mine as I held the baby's ankles. It felt like a sacred, almost shamanic moment. Together we delivered the infant safely, without complication. I loved delivering babies and might have become an obstetrician myself were it not for the field's shifting trend towards surgical intervention at the first sign of deviation from textbook labor. It was disheartening to see the art of birth being eclipsed by fear and litigation. Fast forward a decade to 1989. Now a pediatrician, I looked into my waiting room and saw something I had never once encountered in medical school or residency: a child with autism. At the time, autism was considered extraordinarily rare, perhaps 1 in 10,000. I silently hoped he was there for something else, as I had no training, no framework, no tools for autism. As it turned out, the boy was there for a common parasitic infection. I prescribed mebendazole and sent him home. Later that afternoon, his mother called. "What did you give him?" she asked, astonished.
"He's making eye contact. He's more verbal. He's calmer."
Curious, I contacted the pharmaceutical company to better understand how the drug worked. That moment changed everything for me. I began to suspect that autism was not strictly a psychiatric disorder, as we had been taught, but a medical condition, one with physical, biological underpinnings that might be amenable to treatment. Years later, I would discover that mebendazole inhibited gluten absorption, a clue in itself. Another decade would pass before I came to believe that mercury exposure, particularly through vaccines, could be a significant trigger for the rising incidence of autism. By then, I was actively treating children with autism, often focusing on detoxifying the body, helping children eliminate mercury and other heavy metals as part of their recovery. While the prevailing view now acknowledges a likely environmental cause behind autism, the effort to identify specific culprits has been remarkably restrained, aside from vague references to pesticides. In 1999, the FDA began urging manufacturers to remove mercury from consumer products. The U.S. Public Health Service and the American Academy of Pediatrics, fearing public outrage the mercury was in most vaccines, issued a joint statement expressing their intent to reduce mercury in vaccines. But public outrage never materialized, largely because few people even knew vaccines contain mercury in the first place. Without public pressure, the commitment to remove mercury waned. However, an intriguing pattern emerged. Following the removal of thimerosal from most pediatric vaccines, there was a sharp decline from 2000 to 2002 in the number of autistic children with severe intellectual disabilities. The rate then stabilized. The claim that autism rates have risen due to better diagnosis has always struck me as disingenuous. It implies that pediatricians somehow missed profound developmental delays for decades. Yet few in the profession challenged that narrative. Mercury remained in the flu vaccine, and when the CDC expanded its flu shot recommendations, autism rates began to climb again. I believe the CDC understood the link between mercury and autism. In fact, their actions suggest not ignorance, but deliberate obfuscation. A sudden drop in autism rates might have prompted uncomfortable questions. Better perhaps to maintain the status quo. The infamous Simpsonwood meeting in June 2000 offers disturbing insight. There, researchers reviewed data showing a staggering 1,135% increased risk of autism among infants who received the hepatitis B vaccine within their first 30 days of life, compared to those who received it later, or not at all. The study was buried. The data were rewritten 5 times to obscure statistical significance. In 2001, the Institute of Medicine acknowledged that a link between thimerosal and autism was biologically plausible. They recommended further investigation. But the CDC never conducted those studies, instead relying on epidemiological research, which, while valuable, cannot prove causation. To use such studies to dismiss a potential environmental trigger is, frankly, misleading. In truth, the CDC's Infectious Disease Division, closely aligned with vaccine manufacturers, has failed in its responsibility to the public. While some surface-level changes have been made, such as replacing members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, ACIP, the deeper systemic conflicts remain. I share this not as a whistleblower, but as a physician who has spent decades listening to mothers, to children, and to science when it speaks quietly between the lines. The story of autism in America is far from settled, but we will never find clarity if we refuse to ask the questions that matter most. Thank you for watching. The end.